All right, welcome to the Viking Vault Cooking Show, special Latinx Heritage Edition. Vamos a comer. My name is Justin Mendez. I'm the Basic Needs Program Manager.
Hi, y'all. I'm Linda, almost with student equity.
And today we're going to be cooking some delicious chorizo con papas.
Sopes.
Some sopes. Okay,
Chorizo con papas.
and then we're going to be talking about a little, some various options and ways that you can get creative with this recipe. If you don't like the sope, we'll talk about some alternatives. And yeah, we're going to be highlighting some different student resources throughout the show. But I'm really here as an assistant to our main cook, Linda, who actually we started this cooking show a year ago. This month, actually, we started it with Latinx Heritage Month. We had Linda and Karina Rubio who came and gave us an amazing show. And so now I have to try to fill in for Karina, which is not the business. But yeah, so, I'll let you, Linda, tell me what's up and what are we cooking today? How does this go?
Thank you, Justin. Hey, y'all. Again, my name is Linda Olmos, and today we'll be trying to make, sopes de chorizo con papas. We should rename this what not to do in the kitchen, okay? I'm joking. Hopefully it all comes out all right. But right now what we have going on is just our oil to heat up our sopes. So for those of you that have never tried sopes before, it's basically like thick tortillas. It's round. It has like a little dip in the middle, okay? So that you can put in whatever it is that you're putting in on top. It just depends on how you make them, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put in the chorizo. So the chorizo is basically ground up pig. So it depends on where you're buying it, like what it contains. So sometimes it could be like the lomo, so like the shoulder or the back. So it's like a mixture of, again, whatever, depending on the carniceria or the butcher that you go to. I'm like, how do you say carniceria in English? But yeah, Justin.
And we had a conversation too, because for myself, I went years being vegetarian, and chorizo was one of my favorites as a kid growing up for breakfast. But I had to transition over to soy chorizo. So I was trying to convince Linda to actually for us to cook some chorizo today, but we went with chorizo. I heard that there's some other stuff that is in chorizo sometimes, but I'm gonna let y'all Google it on your own so you can see, hey, where is the meat from in chorizo? And then we're gonna talk about some history today also, about where these foods are coming from. We had an amazing conversation today earlier as part of Latinx Heritage Month, and it was talking about the complexities of Latinidad. And all of our Latinx history or Latinx Heritage Month events are all recorded and they get posted on the website too. And so you'll be able to go onto the website and check that conversation out later. But one of the topics that came up in there was indigeneity. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about how we can decolonize our own diet. And again, some of that history about what are our perceptions of the food that we're eating in terms of what's good, what should we be eating, what is a whole diet or a healthy diet, and where these ideas came from.
Yeah.
And then I do before that want to highlight that almost everything that we cook with today, you can find in our Viking Vault. Okay, so all the students that go into our Viking Vault, which is what we call the food pantry, you get a nice big grocery bag like this, filled with a whole bunch of goodies. And some of the stuff, we had a grab and go earlier today. So we always include some good staples like peanut butter, some pasta and sauce, some canned goods and things like that, as well as a whole produce bag. So avocados and oranges, apples, bananas, papas, onions. Okay, so all of that is for our students. And all of our shows last year, all of the Viking Vault cooking shows really focused on only using things that were in the Viking Vault. But this year we're mixing it up because our basic needs program really wants to push Cal Fresh. Okay, so Cal Fresh is what we have here. And Cal Fresh, maybe some folks have heard Cal Fresh, maybe some folks have heard EBT. A lot of us have heard food stamps or SNAP. And this is monthly free food benefits that is available for students who qualify, who meet an income level, who are working, cater specific eligibility requirements. And thankfully here at LBCC, we have CalFresh specialists that work with you and walk you through every step of that application. We have an amazing team. They say it takes about 10 minutes, only 10 minutes with a phone call, a Zoom meeting to get the information from you and submit your application. That 10 minutes can lead to up to $234 every single month for free for you. You can use that, go to the grocery store, get yourself some chorizo, right? Get yourself some sopes. We don't have these in the Viking vault, but you go get some CalFresh, you can get this at any market. And then you can supplement that with the stuff that we have in our Viking vault, right? So it'll really help ease those financial concerns that we all have to go through as college students. So I really wanted to highlight that. If you're interested in CalFresh, which who wouldn't be? I don't know who doesn't like free food, but definitely email us at basicneeds@lbcc.edu. Maybe we could get, Eric is over here helping us out. We could get that in the chat, basicneeds@lbcc.edu. Send us one line. Hey, how do I apply for CalFresh? We'll connect you with our specialists and get you connected with those resources.
Thank you for all that wonderful information, Justin. Just really quickly for those of you that just joined, today we're making sopes de chorizo con papa. So right now I'm going at the chorizo, which is starting to really smell really good. And the great thing about chorizo is that it already has its seasoning, so you really don't have to like do much to it. You just start cooking it. And it depends on like, I've seen folks like cook it different ways and like for how long or like the chunks. I prefer like more crunchy and like really small bits. So I'm gonna keep going until I see that. And then to save time, I have already diced up and cooked all the potatoes. And so with the Viking vault, you do receive potatoes so you can use during your cooking. And so what I'll do is once the chorizo is ready, I'll just dump the potatoes in there and give them a little mix. And what my mom tells me, right? She was like, Mom, what do I do today? I don't know how to cook. She's like, make sure to cover it and you want to make them sudar. So basically what that means in English is that you want to make it sweat. So you want it to combine so that the potatoes basically take in the juices of the chorizo. So that when you serve it, it's nice and it's like all mixed in there. But for now, what I'm gonna start doing is, again, we're gonna do sopes. So for those of you that just joined, the sopes are just basically thick tortillas. And so you just take a little bit, usually in the bag, and you just drop it over your sartén or your saucepan. It's gonna be Spanglish today, by the way. And then if it bubbles up, that means that the oil should be ready for you to dump it in. And so it should be fairly quickly. It's not that hot, so we're gonna crank it up.
Supposed to be sizzling, right?
Yes.
You know when it's sizzling, that's when it's frying. And I can tell you this chorizo is looking mighty juicy over here.
Do you wanna turn this on?
I'm gonna flip it?
No, just take care of it.
Okay. I'm gonna try to take care of it. I'm gonna give sweet love to the sope right here. I think that's the most important ingredient in anything you're trying to cook, right? We need to sprinkle a little bit of love in it all the time. That's what really makes the meal. That's why mother's cooking is always the best, right? It's got that motherly love in it. Which is funny, right? That's another thing is when we were, thinking about what we're gonna cook and who was gonna cook up here with Linda, of course, I was trying to avoid it. I get camera shy and I'm not the best cook. And I was trying to tell her, there was a time when, grandmas, mothers, women, they wouldn't let a man over here try to help, right? Like if my grandma would see, she'd be like, no, what are you doing? Get over here. Like, no, I'm gonna serve you a plate. I'm gonna serve you a plate. But of course, we're in 2021, we're challenging these gender norms. We're challenging the idea that only women have to cook, men can't cook, and challenging the idea that even cooking is somehow considered less than, right? To me, it's one of the most valuable roles within the household because we gotta feed us, right? Every single day. And then that actually, I think is a good segue into what you were talking about earlier, Linda, and what you were reading about this decoloniality of the food that we're eating and what you learned in your research.
Yeah, so when I was trying to figure out like what to cook for today, I was trying to think of the easiest thing to cook, honestly. And so that's when I thought about chorizo con papas. But then I like myself, like Justin, for a while was fully vegetarian, so I haven't really eaten it. So I was like, well, let me make sure like what is it that I'm serving folks? Like, what are we gonna be really promoting, right? And so I basically like started researching chorizo and then like starting into a rabbit hole about really the food that we eat and how when Mexico was colonized, a lot of the diet and a lot of what we consume drastically changed, right? So our ancestors, I identify as Mexicana, our ancestors were pretty much like vegans, you would say. Dairy wasn't a thing. Meat was pretty scarce. So it was a lot of fruits and vegetables. But when we were colonized, a lot of that was thought as a poor people's food. So then folks or colonizers basically wanting our ancestors to eat like dairy and meat. And so that changed a lot of what we were consuming, which impacted our population, right? And also impacted our land, because then they were taking over that to graze cattle, to graze like pigs and whatnot. But anyways, what I found really interesting, right, or sad actually, is that a lot of the meat that was being consumed by our ancestors was unwanted meat, was meat that others, that white folks didn't find appealing or good enough for them to consume. And so that came about with a lot of the dishes that we find today. And I found an article specifically about menudo. And so if y'all ever had menudo, it looks a little funky, right? But it can be delicious. I do remember eating that when I did eat meat. But basically what happened is that settlers did not want to eat the lining of the cow, right? Because they thought it was disgusting. It was poor people's food. And so that is what they would feed or give to the workers, right? If you want to call them workers. And so then our ancestors, right, would take that and make delicious meals. And what I was telling Justin today is that a lot of those foods that were unwanted, right, are now considered delicacies across the world, right? Because folks are intrigued about how all these like foods came about. So again, if y'all are interested, just like read up a little bit more about like how our ancestors were impacted, how our diet was impacted, as to what we eat, what we don't eat, what's good for us, right? I'm always like sad because I'm lactose intolerant, but I also started reading a little bit about that, right? Because like our ancestors weren't used to dairy, so our food or our DNA or our genes aren't used to processing that as a Latina. And so now I've given to the idea that like my body rejects dairy for a reason, right? So I choose not to consume it anymore because it just, my body doesn't want it, right? And other folks are like, well, you can take pills, you can take whatever, X, Y, and Z, but I choose not to. Yeah.
Mind blowing, right? Amazing history about some chorizo and some menudo, some things that we normalize and consider it as an everyday food, or in other places, delicacy. And then again, like the point that brought me to that is because, as Linda mentioned, the majority, right, of our ancestors, their diet, their life was based off of agriculture. It was based off of the land. And while the men were considered the hunters, as she said, it was rare for that meat to come, right? It was rare. So what was the majority of our life really centered around was the matriarch, was the women who were preparing and taking care of the land and creating the clothes and the food and everything that we needed. So, you know, just to challenge that idea again, that cooking or women cooking is any somehow considered less than us as a man's role.
Or even women cooking, right? Like I joke around, I know how to cook, barely cook, right? But even as that in our own comunidad, right? If you're a mujer and you don't know how to cook, it's like almost a disgrace. Like, why didn't you learn all this, right? Why aren't you in the kitchen with all the other mujeres, right? And so we also have to start talking about that, right? And almost shaming women for not like knowing how to properly cook, right? Like what our grandmothers or our mothers know, right? And I think that all has to do with like generation gaps, right? Where your parents or your grandparents are migrating. So a lot of that is lost, right? Or the responsibilities in the home. Your parents are having to work, you know, 1 or 2 jobs, like who's there to actually teach you these traditions, right? Or being in the kitchen or having that luxury of being in the kitchen together during the week. So these are other conversations that we should be having with folks, right? Within our comunidad. But our little hot plate can only go so hot. So it's, yeah, okay. It's taking a little bit longer than expected. But I was also having a different conversation with Eric and then our Dean Sonia earlier, that I love how creative our ancestors, our families are with food. Because you can take chorizo con papas and you can serve it on a sope, or you can take chorizo con papas and serve it in bolillo, which I call pambazos, right? You grill them, they're covered in hot sauce or red sauce, and you serve it like to go, right? Or I've had them in tacos dorados. And so it's like you take the same products, right? But you make it your own with whatever you have in your kitchen. And that's something that I really appreciate about, growing up in the household that I did, right? It's like you make do with what you have and you get creative and it's delicious. And I think you see that across, Mexico, and I'm sure across different cultures too.
And I think that's what we're missing a little bit, right? Is a little bit of those spices, Usually when I'm cooking some chorizo or chorizo, right, in my case, definitely some salt, some pepper, some red pepper, some paprika, even if you like a little bit spicier, and some cumin, just throw it in there, really help bring out those flavors too. Now, one thing I want to ask is, for me, I don't do a lot of frying. So how are we supposed to know if, for the viewers out there who are trying to learn how to fry up some sopes for the first time, how long do we know when to fry it before that turns into a flame in our kitchen?
Well, it all depends on your actual stove. So like I said, this one's not as high as like the one at home typically. So it's taking a little bit longer. But like when I do them at home, it takes like less than a minute to fry both sides of it. So I think you just have to calculate it. So again, probably no more than 2 minutes, depending on what kind of stove you have. And you see it we don't have a close-up today, sorry y'all. But you can see the bubbles coming about, and then you can start seeing like the edges start to brown a little bit. I usually just try to keep it pushed down. That way the oils hit all the spots and you don't have like an uneven fried sope.
And then today we're using the pretty traditional mazola corn oil. You can find this in almost every Mexican mother's kitchen. But I was talking with another one of our styles. At least you could use grapeseed oil. You can use a lot of other different types of oil. Changes up the flavor a little bit. And I think the temperature also as you're cooking it too. But definitely don't feel like you need this oil. There's healthier options, avocado oil, but it doesn't fry the same. So I don't know if there's any questions that have been put in the chat. If there's any feedback that y'all have to share.
If your eyebrows catch on fire.
If your eyebrows catch on fire. That's why I don't fry, actually. I gotta keep them clean. I don't know. Have you ever seen that fire? That's why I wanted to ask that question.
I unfortunately have never had that happen to me. But I would also love to learn, what do you all cook, right? This is something that brings back memories. This is typically a breakfast meal. So I do remember, helping out my mom. But if y'all want to share in the chat, or if y'all want to unmute yourselves and share a little bit about, what tastes like home.
And to the comment about the eyebrows, right? I got to bring it back to the good old saying, if you can't take the heat, you got to stay out the kitchen, right? And that's one of my questions. It's always a joke, right? Because I might as well go in there right on the stove in the oil, and I'm back here, it's spreading and splashing. I don't know how to get used to that other than experience. That's I don't know if anybody else has a secret out there on how to put a shield somehow to protect yourself from burning and protecting your eyebrows,
Nobody want to share?
Yeah, any other tips on how your family makes chorizo, or if there's any other, again, familial traditions and how you're cooking? Because this is a pretty standard and traditional meal. And if you're me, I could eat it breakfast, I could eat it lunch, I could eat it dinner, chilaquiles también, chorizo, even breakfast burritos, I could eat it all the time.
We love in the chat for the educational piece about the history.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Linda, for bringing in that aspect. And so how do we know when this chorizo is getting ready? It's looking juicy.
It's looking juicy,
It's
but
cooking.
not there yet.
It's got to get a little bit browner.
Yeah, a little bit crunchier. It's just, again, it just depends on where you're cooking it, right? It might take longer. But come on, y'all, we need you to chit-chat it up. We don't want to just stand here.
Well, how about for the papas? I know you made the papas at home.
Yeah.
Some people like me struggle with those potatoes sometimes. It gets too soft. or you leave it too long and then it gets burnt? You know, what are the secrets for get those like papas just right?
Yeah, so I actually have like samples for both. One that I like moved too much, so it looks like all mushed up, and then one that I feel like came out pretty good when I did it at home. But basically you cut them up into cubes. You know, I did salt and pepper, or I did garlic salt. But one thing to note is that in the recipe that we provided, I don't boil my potatoes beforehand, and some folks do. They boil them, that way it's a little bit softer, and then they just put it into the saucepan. But that's not something I do. I just cut them up into like smaller portions, and then I just put them into the saucepan with some oil, and then just gently move them around and then cover them up. Again, as I mentioned earlier, like in Spanish, you call them sudar. That way, like the water that drips back into it when you cover it up makes it soft. So again, it just depends on how you choose to make yours with whatever you have.
Maybe we'll roll with the two for now.
Yeah, but it's so that's.
So I could share a little bit if
You wanna use that one and use this one?
Let me meet this.
Come join me there.
So here we have comment Eric Becerra, Director of Special Projects over here. He also helps lead our MSI program. I'm rocking our shirt today. Shout out to all of our MSI brothers in the house.
Hopefully y'all can see me over this bag. I was just gonna say, chorizo is very versatile, right? So they were talking about how you can repurpose it for the day after. In a lot of households, you can either do it with papas, with potatoes, with egg, with beans, and all the variations that they explain, like putting it on a sope, putting it in a burrito, putting it on a tostada, making it into a taco dorado, which is basically you make a taco and then you deep fry the taco all together. It's very delicious. Very many ways to make it, but for the potato, the papas con chorizo part, when I'm in a hurry and I just need to cook it very quickly, this might not be the healthiest way to do it, but if you put the potato in the microwave for a little bit, for like 1 minute, it softens it up enough to where you can just dice it up, throw it in the saucepan, and it's ready in a jiffy. Thank you.
There you go. Never, count out the microwave. Always comes in clutch when you need it.
I'm just gonna add the potatoes. Like I said, I made these yesterday, so I'm just gonna heat them up in this pan with the chorizo. But typically you're going at it both. Can you mix that?
And so, Eric, while we have you over here, we do want to highlight a couple of our Latinx resources. It's always important to share. Do we have, could you share some of the upcoming events? What else do we have on the roster for this month, Latinx Heritage Month? And while he's getting those events ready, I also want to highlight we have the Latinx Student Resource Guide. And here is an amazing LBCC specific resource guide for all of our Latinx identifying students on every resource that might be of interest to you, including clubs, student programs, even people, right? The people power. I do know that that's one event we have coming up. It's called Meet Your Village, where we're just going to have a whole bunch of our Latinx identifying staff members and faculty who have a strong commitment to supporting our fellow Latinx students. And it's just going to give us a chance to really identify, hey, who is my village, right? Who is my community? Coming from that idea that it takes a village. Okay, nobody is successful on their own. We all strive and succeed when we have a supportive community around us. And so that's what all of these events are for, to really help highlight and provide you all Latinx students the value and help you understand that at this campus and any other campus you go to, that your lived experience and the family and the culture and the history that you come from is important. And it's important that you bring that history and you bring that power into the classroom and onto the campus community, because that's what's going to help us grow, right? Is when we have this beautiful, diverse communities coming and providing a lot of different insight into everything that we're doing here on campus. So Eric, you got some other events that's coming up this month?
Definitely. So thank you all who have supported previous events. You can go on our website, and rather than give you, I'll drop the link in the chat before later. But if you log onto the LBC website, it's part of the banner. You just click on it. It'll take you to the Latinx Heritage page where you can access the events. Please do not miss tomorrow at noon, Querida Latinx, using racial microaffirmation to recognize us. This is Dr. Lindsay Perez-Uber is going to be our guest speaker that's going to share this concept of microaffirmation. So I know we've all become very familiar with the term microaggression. Some scholars have argued that our focus is so intent on microaggressions that we forget about the macroaggressions and the institutional oppression that happens in our institutions. Well, this kind of flips them both in saying to highlight the power of micro affirmations, right? So those little moments and instances of making students feel validated, seen, heard, and loved, and the power of that. Next week, we have the rhythm of the cosmos, or discussing the Tonan Machot. So that's commonly referred to as the Aztec calendar. I think we've all seen it on murals, on t-shirts, on the cars, on the hoods of lowriders. So we'll be going a little bit into what all the different rings on the Aztec calendar designate, and is it even accurate to call it an Aztec calendar, right? We'll have an Aztec danza demonstration, so traditional prayer through dance that a lot of our indigenous communities partake in all through Latino America. Very important event on October 7th at 1 p.m. If y'all can log in, this is the Meet Your Village. This is a series of events we want to put on every Heritage Month. This is where you get to meet the faculty, staff, and administrators on your campus that identify in the same way as you do. If you are of that community, then come learn from your peers and people who identify like you. If you are not, then this could be a window into another identity, right? And we can start to appreciate diversity, equity, and inclusion in that way as well. So if you go to that website, we'll have a lot of conversations. As the director over the Male Success Initiative, one that we're really excited about as well is on the 8th, October 8th at 3 p.m. We're having a panel discussion called Decolonizing Masculinity. So just like we've discussed decolonizing our diet, we want to go into this conversation of what colonization has taught us in terms of what masculinity is, how it is defined, and reaching a more balanced identity as males, right? So a lot coming at you. So just check out the website, which I'll drop in the chat shortly.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing. And if y'all have time tomorrow, please check out our featured speaker. You know, when we have guests come and speak to us, we really want them to have like a good crowd, right, of folks to come and participate. And I'm a little biased about the one next week for our Danza Azteca. These are folks in our community who continue to teach traditional practices of danza, música, so dance, music, and it's going to be hands-on, right? So you're going to be able to participate. They're going to be able to teach you some of the steps and some of the traditions and some of the music. So you'll be able to, you know, from home, you know, practice these steps alongside us. So I'm really excited about that one.
And I'm gonna share a little insight why Linda's so excited, but she actually practices Danza Azteca as well as I do. We're getting new into it. And, you know, I wanted to bring that up to really just encourage all of you, you know, who have an interest in these conversations about decolonization or have an interest about Latinx heritage events on campus to engage in it, right? Really get yourself involved, find those opportunities to learn more. You know, something that we've learned recently through our participation in the danza group, as well as just learning from elders, is that indigeneity comes from our heart. It comes from within. So a lot of the times we get caught up, you know, for myself, I identify as Chicano, but racially I'm mixed, right? I have my dad who's from, whose family's from Mexico, who was born out here in LA. And then I have my mom who is Irish, white, blonde hair, blue eyes. And so I'm very mixed, right? And I love the event earlier this afternoon about complexities of Latinidad because we're so mixed, right? And we try to essentialize what is a real Mexican, right? Like if I were to tell people, oh, like I can't eat chorizo, I don't eat meat, right? Like what kind of Mexican doesn't like tacos, right? What kind of Mexican doesn't speak Spanish? You know, we hear those things all the time. But again, if you have that interest and your heart is calling you to it, then follow it, right? Because your heart won't lead you wrong. And we need more people because if we're not the ones that are going to be sharing this type of information and bringing it to light and keeping our strong ancestral knowledge and powers alive, then who is it, right? Who is it going to be? So definitely keep on tuning into all the events coming up throughout this month. And you know, I definitely encourage y'all to join us for the Danza Azteca to go deep into our ancestors a few hundred years ago too. Because those were also dances that were illegal and people were not allowed to be practicing. But through our own resilience as a culture and community, we kept it alive too. And even through cooking, right? Like Linda highlighted too, even through cooking, it can be a form of resilience in terms of turning these scraps or meat that people didn't used to want into delicious meals that we're still cooking and living strong in the culture today.
I think that's something what I love about all these heritage months is that even myself, right, helping and coordinating and putting them on, I'm still learning a lot about myself and my identity. And this Danza Azteca, this group actually did a danza for us at the Pacific Coast campus. The first year we started having heritage celebrations. So it's really opened a door to who I am and what I'm learning about myself. And I hope that y'all have had the same opportunities to not only have discussions with other folks in these sessions, Zoom sessions, right? But that you've been able to see yourself throughout all these different months. And if you are here as faculty or staff and want to participate, please email us. You can email Eric and myself. If you want to participate, put on a different cooking show with Justin or a specific event about language or identity, whatever it is that you want to, host for students, or if you're a student and you're interested in hosting some sort of session, right? Make sure to communicate with us, find, a faculty member, a staff member that will support you throughout that journey. Because, it takes a little bit to make sure that your event is all good to go. And we're more than happy to add it to our calendar.
And then, speaking of future cooking shows, I see already we have a past chef that hopefully she'll be a next future chef. We got Sylvia Garcia in the house, who last year she partnered with Nosheen. They cooked some bomb chilaquiles for us and some salad, a cucumber salad. And, I see her talking about some chorizo con chile relleno or chorizo in chile rellenos, right? So if that's something we want to see Sylvia make for us, give her a shout out, give a thumbs up, right? And let's encourage her to come on back, because she has some amazing skills in the kitchen that we would love to see her again host, because not only is she amazing in the kitchen and her food is delicious, but her personality is just so amazing, and she's always amazing to work with too. So anytime we can get her in front of the students and share that love that she brings to the table too, it's always a plus for our campus community. And something that we haven't talked about also is the salsa. So salsa is super important, and we did do a little bit of cheating again. We're not going to go over step by step how to make a salsa. I'm thinking maybe for a future we can go over how to make some different salsas, right? Have a specific salsa dedicated show, and we can make sure we're stocked in our Viking vault with the tomates and the avocates and the food like that too. So you can come and maybe we'll have like a salsa competition, right? These are just ideas thrown off the top of my head, but let us know if that's something you're interested. Again, because we're here for you, the students, and if that's something that you want, then we can make it happen.
Sylvia's people will call your people.
All right, sounds good. Have your people call my people. Looking forward to it. And I don't know if you knew too, right? Another fun fact, but a lot of these words that we use as for food in Spanish, they also have Nahuatl origins. Okay, so Nahuatl is the Aztec language, or the Mexica language that was used before Spanish came and colonized Mexico, right? So tomate, aguacate. What else do we got? I don't know exactly.
Zacate.
Guajolote. Yeah,
a lot of words that end in TE.
Yeah, a lot of those TE, what is that, suffix words. And something else that we're missing that we do also usually have here in the Viking vault is beans. So another way you can make your sopes is to first line it with some beans. We have all sorts of beans in our Viking vault. We got the black beans and the kidney beans and the pinto beans. Okay, usually I stick with the black beans or the pinto. You just line up some of those, mash them up, line it on the sope, and then you can throw the chorizo con papa, the salsa. We got some lechuga right here, or lettuce, and then some queso.
And I know folks add different toppings to it, right? Usually in my household, like Justin was saying, we usually do beans first and then the chorizo con papas. I've seen folks use different types of queso, but I prefer queso fresco, at least my family does. And then, you gotta add something healthy on there, so might as well throw some lettuce on top.
It's a balanced meal.
Exactly, just so you feel good about what you're eating, right? And
some nice tomate too, the tomatoes, you chop some up, throw those on top. And then of course avocado. I definitely always love avocado. Here we go, a nice, beautiful sope con chorizo con papas. Here it is. Okay, so I'm done for the day. I'm gonna go eat. Y'all have fun. No, I'm just kidding. So are there any questions as we're wrapping up? You see our final product right here. Pretty simple. Again, you know, all of the, you know, we had lettuce, we had celery in our Viking vault. We have all the produce. As for the chorizo, the sopes, and the queso fresco, and the pan dulce. I don't know if you can see this very cool pan dulce, right? That Linda brought for us today too. But you know, you can get all of these in the market by benefiting from CalFresh, okay? So CalFresh, if you're interested in getting some free food every month, just email us basicneeds@lbcc.edu. Say, I want CalFresh. Hit send on that button. We're gonna get you connected with the resources up to $234 free every single month. And so many students are eligible, but don't even know and still don't apply. And so we want to make sure that that's not you, that is eligible to get $200 a month and then just missing out because you just, you know, didn't send that one email, you didn't ask that one question to get you connected with those resources. So please, please, please get connected. Come visit our Viking Vault in person. Let us show you all the great food that we have. You know, can come in person every Monday and Tuesday at the LAC campus, E131, or every Wednesday and Thursday at PCC QQ 107. Okay, if those times don't work, just email us and we'll figure out a way to coordinate and get you the food resources that you need. Right, thank you, Dr. Becerra, right? 10 minutes can get you those resources. So please contact us, don't hesitate. And are there any questions as we sign off and we finish, close out our show for today? Any last comments, Linda?
Quick question, if y'all located on LAC's campus right now?
We're here right now. Come into
Okay.
the
Come on over.
I might swing by.
That's a great question.
Wish you could smell in here, bro.
Yeah, you should be able to, if
We're
you
in
open
the
these doors,
fishbowl.
it's gonna permeate throughout campus. But anybody at LAC, come on through the fishbowl, come get your grub on with some chorizo con papas. It's delicious. I know I'm about to grub too, but that's a very real invite. Come on
And
through
where-
LAC.
Please.
Where are you all located? What's the room?
We're in the fishbowl. It's the E building and the A
Okay.
and B room. Just walk in the student lounge and follow your nose. You're gonna find us.
Okay.
Yep, follow your nose. E113, I believe, is the official number. Thanks, Derek. All right, thank you, Sylvia.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate y'all being here again for faculty and staff. Like y'all have an opportunity to participate throughout these months too. We want to make sure that our students are having a perspective from all of our identities, right? You know, I identify again as Mexicana, Chicana, whatever you want to call it, but like it's different than, you know, someone that was like from Central America, right? So again, if y'all want to show off your cooking skills or just have those types of conversations on campus, please, please, please email us.
Check out the Latinx Resource Guide coming at you. All the students, get connected, be amazing, be great. Go gente, you're amazing peoples. Much love. Peace.
Thank you.